This is Digital Marketing Depot, broadcasting live. I'm Karen Burka, your webinar producer. Thank you for joining us today for Google Analytics 360 and the move to enterprise analytics. We are very pleased to welcome David Booth, Senior Partner and Co-founder at Cardinal, and Paul Pellman, Director of the Google Analytics 360 Suite at Google. Before I turn the webinar over to our speakers, I want to tell all of you a couple of things. If you need some help or have a question for our speakers, just use the Ask a Question box and we will do our best to help you. If you want to tell a friend, check out Cardinal or Digital Marketing Depot. There are some widgets at the bottom of your screen. Just click on them and they will take you where you want to go. We're also asking you to complete our satisfaction survey today, so you can click on the survey widget at any time or it will pop up automatically at the end of the webinar. The hashtag for today is DMDWC. We are going to hear a lot of great content, so I wanted to let you know we are recording this broadcast and we will make it available for viewing on demand. So with that business taken care of, let me make some formal introductions. David Booth, Senior Partner and Co-founder at Cardinal, is an author, instructor, adjunct professor, and public speaker. He has advised and worked with companies and organizations across 5 continents in web analytics and business intelligence, statistical analysis and testing, technology selection and deployment, and online and search marketing. Paul Pellman, Director of the Google Analytics 360 Suite at Google, is a seasoned and experienced sales and marketing operations leader. Paul joined Google through its acquisition of Odometry in 2014. He was also Executive Vice President of Marketing at Hoover's, where he was responsible for the leadership of the company's brand development and marketing initiatives. Now you can see more complete bios and contact information for our speakers on the left side of your audience console. Remember, if you have questions for our industry experts, please make good use of that Ask a Question box. We'll try to get to those questions live after the formal presentation. So before I turn the webinar over to David Booth, we've got an audience poll question for you to get us started. Here's the question. What are your key priorities for analytics? And we've got several choices, and you can choose multiple answers. So this is a multiple choice, not a single choice. Improving data quality, better testing and personalization, leveraging third-party data, visualization and reporting, or surfacing insights to business stakeholders. So while we give you a couple of seconds to think about that and click on your responses, I'm going to bring in David Booth to take a look at the results with me, and then he will get started on his part of the presentation. So there we go, David. So we've got quite a few winners here, visualization and reporting, and more than half also are saying surfacing insights and improving data quality, all really good goals for analytics, right?
Yeah, thanks, Karen. And I think regardless of what the answers are here, I think the trend, and judging by the number of folks attending this and that are interested in this particular topic, the clear idea here is that web and digital analytics has become a staple of the marketing function these days. So we're starting to see things that there's been an evolution where years ago it was really about implementing so we could start collecting the right data. These days people have less of an issue with having data. It's really more about how are we going to use that data. And I think it's interesting here to take a look at things like visualization and reporting kind of moving up the charts here, because that does start to move towards let's stop collecting data and start using it. And it's in the spirit of that we're going to be talking about the GA360 suite here today. To set the stage, though, I think, just to back that up a little bit with some data here, eMarketer found that 75% of practitioners out there are concerned with and working with marketing and web analytics tools these days. And they've really evolved. They've come a long way from the traditional hit counters and log file parsers from years past. These are integrated platforms now that are allowing us not just to collect data and analyze data and find insights that can be used, but we can actually action them within the platform too. And we're going to hear a lot about that today. The next thing that I'd just like to say is, because we're starting to see that web analytics tools and analytics platforms are kind of becoming a staple here, we have reached 100% adoption here among the Internet's top 1,000 online retailers. And this is a study that we do each year, and you can start to see that not only are people adopting a platform, in many cases people are adopting multiple platforms. So we can see that Google Analytics specifically has almost a 90% penetration rate within this top 1,000 retailers. Now this could be a case where Google Analytics or the Google Analytics 360 suite are being used by themselves to go ahead and take care of all of the problems and issues that the marketers need to solve. And in many cases, it's being used additionally to another platform that's out there. So we are fortunate here to have with us Paul Pellman from Google to talk to us about why so many people are adopting the Google Analytics 360 suite, a little bit about what it is, and then we'll be sharing some cases of people who are gaining some real value from it throughout the rest of this webinar. So Paul, I'm going to pass it over to you to hear a little bit more about the GA 360 suite.
Great. Thanks so much, Dave. I'm really happy to be here. We really have a great partnership with Cardinal Path, and we are going to talk about this a little bit later, where it's not just about the tools that you leverage, it's also about the experts and the professionals you bring in to make sure, especially at the enterprise level, that the tool is customized to really meet the needs for your specific business. And Cardinal Path has been a great partner in doing that. So really excited to be here and talk not just about the Google Analytics 360 suite, but also how leveraging that tool with the right partner services can really help you as marketers out there really accomplish your goals. So I'll touch first on just what the Google Analytics 360 suite is. This is a really exciting development a little over a year ago, where we took the foundation of Google Analytics and we married it with a comprehensive suite of products that helps marketers and analytics folks within an organization more comprehensively work with meet the challenges they have in running their business. I used to run a startup that dealt specifically with attribution, and that's a relatively new field. But the problem that marketers have is they're getting to a point where they need 35 different solutions, being a little bit facetious here, but 35 different solutions to manage their burgeoning marketing activities. And the reality is, while that's created a lot of great innovation in the marketplace, marketers more so are looking for fewer solutions that can do more things, just because of the efficiency and the added benefit you can get from doing that. And the GA 360 suite really helps accomplish that. So obviously we start with the strength of Analytics 360, which is our enterprise version of Google Analytics, and we marry to that an optimized program, which we're calling Optimize 360, so you can do testing and A/B testing within your site, attribution to help you understand media performance, understand how the entirety of the stream of digital media that consumers are seeing, how that specifically drives people to your site and convert. We then bring in Audience Center, which is our DMP solution for audience-based targeting, leveraging a programmatic platform. And then we have a really unique survey product that allows clients to take any set of site visitors and proactively send out surveys to them digitally to really understand the why. So you can see with analytics and these other tools what's happening, specifically understand what's happening, but sometimes you need to do research to understand why folks are doing that, and surveys helps do that. And that's overseen kind of two other platforms within the suite comprehensively help manage and do all these things better. So a tag management solution that allows for streamlined data capture across all products in the analytics suite, and then Data Studio, which is a comprehensive data analytics and visualization platform that leverages a lot of the benefits of Google Drive. So it's a really powerful suite, and I think when marketers are looking at what tools and what company they really want to invest in, it's really important to make sure you're looking at a solution that can comprehensively help meet a lot of your needs. Let's talk a little bit about the free version of Google Analytics versus the enterprise or paid version of Analytics 360. And I'll start by emphasizing that for us it's most important to make sure that clients pick the right solution. We are completely comfortable with clients using the free product if that's the best thing for their business. But for some clients that are bigger and have more specialized needs and have a certain level of traffic, the enterprise solution makes sense. And so some of the key differentiators here you can see is obviously the Analytics 360 product is targeted more to the larger enterprises. Some of the benefits are from a data processing and export standpoint, unsampled data, so you get to see 100% of your data, much higher data refresh rate, 4-hour refresh rate versus 24 to 48 hours on the free product, and the ability to export significantly more data seamlessly into BigQuery, which is our kind of database engine, which Dave's going to talk a little bit, we'll talk a little bit further on. It's a really powerful tool to kind of really quickly customize and add a lot of other data to help with your marketing efforts. From an integration standpoint, the free version of Analytics, Google Analytics, provides a lot of integration into AdWords and other Google products. The enterprise version takes that further. If you're a large enterprise client doing a lot of display advertising and you're using anything within the DoubleClick suite, like DoubleClick Campaign Manager for your ad server or DoubleClick Bid Manager for your programmatic media buying, those products are seamlessly integrated into the enterprise version of Google Analytics 360. In addition, Analytics 360 has additional enterprise features, things like data-driven attribution, custom funnels, and other reporting capabilities that enterprises tend to need. And obviously, there's a higher level of support with Analytics 360 versus the free product. Our focus at Google is really to make sure that we provide, in many cases, free capabilities in addition to enterprise products. So it's not just our analytics product where we have a free self-serve capability. We also have a free version of our Tag Manager solution, a free version of our Optimize, which is our testing and A/B testing personalization platform. And Data Studio is a free product overall. So using any part of the suite, enterprise or free, you're able to put Data Studio on top of that for better seamless visualization and reporting capabilities. Surveys as a mid-tier product. I mean, there is a fee. There is no free survey product because running any survey creates a cost for Google, but we do have the ability to, for some customers, to use our self-serve or what we call our mid-tier surveys product that's different from our enterprise version of surveys. So for the rest of the discussion, we're really going to try to focus on the three areas within analytics. When we think of the analytics product and the capabilities within analytics, we really look at it across three dimensions, which is how do you understand, first and foremost, understand definitively the customer journey. What's the journey customers are taking in the media they see that drives them to your site, and then once they get to your site, how they go through your site and actually become customers, and how you can use that data to improve your marketing effectiveness and your business effectiveness. That's one thing we're going to cover. We're then going to jump into talking about how you can actually generate insights from the data. So, one of the great benefits of the internet space is you get lots of data, but that's also a problem because you have lots of data. And so how do you make sure that you pull the right insights out of that data? And we're doing some really novel things around machine learning and artificial intelligence within our analytics platform that really uncovers some of those insights. And then we'll finish up by talking about the fact you have insights is great, but you need to be able to take action against those insights so you can actually drive improvement in your business, and we'll touch on how we're doing that. Going first to, before we get to that point, I did just also want to touch a little bit on how analytics as the foundation really can enhance some of the other things and other products within the suite. So, analytics really serves as the backbone. It's a common data layer that's used across all these other products. So when you're using analytics, for example, to do really customized audience-based segmentation, segmenting all of your customers and website visitors that are coming to your site into different buckets of customers based on what they're doing on your site. You can move all that data over to Audience Center, our audience-based platform, and use that to build all sorts of customized lookalike models for more effective and efficient and targeted audience-based targeting. That's one benefit. From an optimized standpoint, running A/B tests on your site is a capability most marketers want to have, and there's lots of third-party solutions out there that do that well. The one benefit that Optimize 360 provides is it leverages, again, all that data you already have in Analytics 360 so that you can seamlessly run tests on top of all that. So if, again, you've built all these great customized audience segments within Analytics, you're able to seamlessly run all sorts of A/B tests against any of those audience segments, so way more efficient than what you can get if you're using a separate platform. Data Studio, we've built strong connections to make sure that we can take all this data from analytics and seamlessly port it into Data Studio so you can build all sorts of custom reports, share those reports with all sorts of colleagues, allow those colleagues to customize the reports and collaborate on those reports. Just takes analytics to a whole new level and reporting and visualization to a whole new level. And then from an attribution standpoint, we do have some base level attribution capabilities within Analytics 360, But if you're the type of marketer that has a really sophisticated digital marketing campaign, there may be benefit to moving up to our attribution product above that. And the benefit to that is the attribution solution uses all the data that's already in Analytics 360. So you don't have to worry about a completely separate data collection infrastructure to drive your product. So again, just reinforces how all of this ties together and just the benefits of using one standard data architecture with products that are seamlessly integrated together. It's a lot more efficient and effective for marketers versus trying to use and cobble together a bunch of different third-party solutions to help and try to do the same thing as opposed to using one common suite. So let's jump into understanding the customer journey. I want to touch first on an example on our custom funnels capability. So, one aspect, and this really touches on once visitors come to your site and they interact with your site and they kind of move through different flows or waterfalls of pages within your site to get to an ultimate transaction. The real value here, and one of the benefits within our product, is using our custom funnel reporting capability to really be able to zero in on the path that customers are taking so you can understand those points within that journey where customers are dropping off the most. And it helps you identify, how can you fix that or improve that to generate results. And one specific case study is with Brian Gavin Diamonds. They were able to use our enhanced e-commerce funnels to identify opportunities to increase their checkout conversion rate. And by using this capability and then testing against that, they were able to increase the customer completion rate of their checkout funnel by 60%. So that is a really dramatic improvement. You think about 60% more customers buying something from you. I think everyone would agree that's a big deal. And that was this customer was able to do that because they had the data, understanding that customer journey. Once people came to their site, they were able to understand that and use that data to improve their marketing effectiveness. But understanding the customer journey doesn't just start once someone comes to your website. The facts is there are a lot of activities that happen before someone gets to your website that ultimately gets someone to come in and start engaging with you on your website destination. And a lot of times, and we've seen this now as more and more companies are leveraging more and more digital media, the concept of last event or last click attribution to measure results is a poor way of understanding performance. That's especially true if a client is seeing 15, 20, or 30 ads before they ultimately convert. And so, one other benefit of the analytics product is being able to seamlessly bring in all of that media data. So again, if you're using DoubleClick Campaign Manager as your ad server, we can integrate that so we can bring all that data into the analytics solution and marry that with all the click-based marketing activity we can already pick up within the analytics solution to get that full view of media activity that drives people to your site. And use that then with our data-driven attribution model to precisely allocate credit across that stream of media. So you're not giving all the credit to the last ad seen or the last ad clicked. You can now understand media performance across the stream of media that folks see. HomeAway is a great case study. It's a client, big sophisticated client, using the capabilities just in Analytics 360 to understand media performance. And they used this to understand some of the keyword activities, and they were able to therefore invest and change their keyword bidding strategy to drive a 23% increase in conversions that they're able to generate because of our attribution capabilities. So really significant results. I'll hand it to Dave to touch a little bit on maybe some of the things they've seen in their experience as it relates to understanding the customer journey.
Yeah, and you know what, Paul, you're absolutely right. The customer journey has changed. In the digital era, we are no longer in a linear customer journey where you see an ad on TV, you get in your car, go down to the store to touch and feel the product, make your selection, and then go tell your friends about it. The digital world is much different. We're in a multi-touch, omni-channel sort of a situation with lots of different screens, and it's a very complicated customer journey to understand. So you've given some great examples here of how we can start to understand how that those different online touch points are happening, even well before someone gets to a website. And one of the things that we've seen is that that customer journey is not exclusive to the digital space, and we all know this. But we can use some of the features and functionalities of the 360 suite and couple that with some of the data modeling capabilities that we have these days to start to bridge that gap between the online and the offline. And a great example of that is US Cellular. So US Cellular, a GA360 client who is taking advantage of many of the features that Paul's just laid out, when we have the ability to integrate things like double-click information and double-click data, and we have the ability to extract all of this raw data in the BigQuery platform, we can then merge different data sets. So when we have BigQuery as a platform for taking large amounts of online data, and through the double-click and other integrations have lots of all that online data being coming from one source and in one place, we can then add sales data, for example. We could start to look at what's happening in the stores. And for US Cellular, the big problem here is that, as many of you know, when you're looking to get a new phone and get a new plan, most of your research is done in the online space, but very few of the actual sales are done in the online space. Most of us would like to go to the mall or go to the kiosk and walk into the store. We've already made our selection from all the research we've done online. We pick out what we like, and we'd like someone to transfer all of our contacts, and so we can walk out of that store making a call or checking our email on our brand new phone. What's happening there is that it represents a break in the online to offline ecosystem. It's very difficult for us to carry a cookie, for example, across into an actual person and turn it into a virtual Post-it note or something to staple on their back and try to track them through that process. So what we can do is merge those two data sets, and then we can start to use modeling to understand the impact of what exactly is driving these offline sales. So by doing this, we're able to actually take this a step further and value those online actions. So not only are we understanding what each of the page views or each of the marketing channels that are getting into in different features of the online assets, the websites, the mobile websites, the apps that we have, we're able to actually then see how that's translating into in-store offline sales. Now for US Cellular, this was again an extension of that customer journey story, which allows them to see not only what's happening in the digital space and justify and optimize the budgets that are being spent there and all the ways that they're doing that, but also tie it to real revenue that's hitting the bottom line of the business. The other thing that I'll call out is, we've said people will choose to move to an enterprise paid analytics solution for a number of different reasons. There's another group that we work with, very high growth and large online fashion retailer that was essentially moving to GA360 not just for the features and functionality, but also because they had, as Paul mentioned, just grown to the point where the amount of data there was running into sampling issues and things of that nature with the standard free product. So I want to use this as an example just to show how easy it can be to enable an enterprise solution like GA360. In this case, this particular client was already using the standard product and was using it very, very well. They had reached a point where they absolutely were at risk of losing some data if they did not upgrade and increase some of those limits immediately. We got the call on a Wednesday, and we had them up and running on GA360 by Friday. This is the sort of thing where really there's no change in code base that's required. This is almost, you can think of it as a switch in the back end that can be flipped, and then those features magically appear, those limits magically start to grow, all those integrations become available to you. And in this case, not only was that major driver of not losing the data realized, but the other thing that this retailer is able to do now is start to understand the true value of all these different features. So we're now in the process of going through these integrations and enabling some of these new features and using things like the user ID to track people across the different screens and devices they might be using. We're moving towards the enhanced e-commerce world to give more visibility into that purchased product and again, some of those customer funnels that are happening within the site itself. And then, of course, the BigQuery integrations that allow us to start to merge offline data and other CRM-based data with this online touch points becomes a catalyst for digital maturity in this space. So in this case, if you, like they, are an already fast-growing business, this is a place where you can recognize even more potential. And I think these are some good examples of really using these platforms to understand that customer journey. And now, Paul, I think we'll move over to virtually changing the conversation around just collecting data. And as we said at the very beginning, this is more about using the data. So we'll start to hear from Paul how this data can actually be turned into insights.
Yep, that's great. And so when we started this discussion, we talked about the way we look at analytics, kind of three main pillars. We covered the first one on understanding the customer journey. So now we want to dive into the second around moving beyond just data collection to actually generating insights. How do you take this massive amount of data and actually zero in on the insights that you want to use to drive success? We touched on this a little bit, but again, one of the main advantages of Analytics 360 is the ease in being able to bring all these disparate data sources together into one kind of unified way of understanding user and customer performance. So we touched on the ability with Analytics 360 to seamlessly integrate DoubleClick data if you happen to be buying a lot of display media and using DoubleClick as your ad server. Well, let's be, frankly, DoubleClick is almost everyone, at least in the United States, is using DoubleClick. It has about 80% penetration in the United States. So in most cases, that's the ad server of choice that you're using, and the ability to seamlessly integrate that into your analytics solution is a key benefit. We've also touched on the fact that a lot of times the data you want, after someone comes to your website and then they start converting and transacting with your company, a lot of that data is stored in your CRM database. And so the ability to then use BigQuery to bring in those offline data sets and marry it into the US Cellular example Dave just talked about, bringing that data in. So, the first thing is you got to bring all that data together into one cohesive place, and then you start using it to generate insights. And, this is another example of how using that DoubleClick Campaign Manager integration within analytics allows you to kind of holistically seamlessly see one full data set of all of your media activity and how that media activity ultimately gets people to come to your site, and how you can use that data then to say, okay, of those folks that are coming in from my various media channels, how are they then interacting with my site, and are they converting or not? And having that all in one data set allows you to just make better decisions. For folks that can't do this, you're basically looking at separate walled garden solutions. You're using your media analytics platform to understand media performance, and that's separate from your site analytics platform, and never will the two meet. We've solved that problem, and again, it helps create effectiveness and efficiency and understand what's really driving performance. Great case study with Panasonic, just the simple act of bringing media results tied tightly to site results allowed them to understand media effectiveness more effectively, and allowed them to, just from that, improve return on ad spend by 30%. So dramatic result. You also take the aspect of saying, okay, now once we have all that data, how do we create insight from that data? And so Google's done a really strong job and really leading the market around leveraging a lot of our machine learning technology and capabilities to highlight and surface more quickly the insights that are happening within all of this data. We have two capabilities that we call Smart Goals and Smart Lists, where we're basically leveraging all your user data to predict, based on past history, those site visitors that are most likely to convert and have the highest revenue potential in the future. And many of our clients have used that capability to better target those customers for follow-on marketing activities. Hertz is a great example of that. They use our analytics solution and the Smart List capability to basically identify those customers, the top 15% prospects within folks that have already come to their site. And they use that data to bid more aggressively for those customers when they're going to Google, going for search, or in their remarketing efforts. And by doing that, they've been able to drive a 34% lift in click-through rate on those higher value prospects. And not only are they increasing the clicks on these high value customers, they're able to do that at a much more effective cost per action. The CPA on those activities is less than 10% of their overall search CPA budget. So think about that for a second. Using Smart Lists, automatically we're able to help Hertz identify the most valuable customers or potential customers and use that data to target them more effectively. And they're doing that, driving a lot more business at a much lower CPA than they're able to do without that. And that's all driven by the insights that are coming automatically out of the Smart List capability within Google Analytics.
Yeah. Paul, I just add to
David.
that. I think at this point, it's been clear that we have moved marketing into the age of machine learning, and we're hearing lots and lots about AI and all the wonderful things that are happening. And when you marry the humans that are driving this machine and understanding how they can take advantage of it with this technology and these capabilities, there's some really amazing things that can be done. And I'll just give one other example. A client of ours at a very large, well-known brand in the automotive space had the same issue where, again, they needed to transcend that shift from the online activity into the offline space where most of the transactional activity is happening and the point of sale exists. And in this case, they were able to use advanced data science techniques and predictive analytics to, again, extract data out of the web analytics environment, marry it with point of sale sales data from the online environment, and then do something that we call purchase intent modeling, which is essentially providing an actual dollars and cents value to any of these digital actions that are happening in the online space. So, for example, we all kind of know that, generally if someone were to download a coupon or they were to look for a how to find us or find your nearest retailer or find your nearest location or sign up for our email newsletter, all those things are probably good. The thing is, we don't know exactly how good and how to value those, but by marrying this data together and using these machine learning techniques, we're able to actually put a dollar and cent value on that. So product by product, we can understand, is this a coupon download that's worth $1.23 per click? And if it is, then we exactly know what our CPA targets can be. So all of this comes full circle into that digital marketing space.
Yeah, that's great, Dave. I think we find the same thing. It's a really exciting time to see how these tools are being used to really help marketers drive more effective results. And I think that ties seamlessly into the third leg of the stool. Again, we started this discussion talking about, first and foremost, you want to, as efficiently and effectively as possible, understand the customer journey. Once you do that, you want to make sure when you're gathering all this data, in the reams of data that are out there, that you're finding insights within that data and how Google Analytics can help you do that. And then the last leg of the stool is once you have those insights, insights are great, but how do you take those insights and turn them into action and actually use them to help drive improvement in your business results? And so I want to touch a little bit on that and some of the examples that I think really bring that home. So for me, one of the things that I think is just really powerful within the digital space is leveraging remarketing to better target folks that have come to your website and have not transacted, have basically raised their hand as someone that's interested in your product and interested in your company. And so using remarketing capabilities to more efficiently and effectively remarket to those folks to convince them to come back to your site is one of those foundational marketing tools that companies use to help drive results. And one of the benefits of Analytics 360 is just how seamlessly we're able to integrate that into both Google and DoubleClick ad products to do remarketing more effectively than clients can do using other tools. So just to start, just to give a little bit of a precursor on how remarketing works, typically a customer visits your site and may do something on your site, something as further down the funnel, like adding a product to the shopping cart, or it might just be looking and researching data on your site, and then they leave. They don't transact. And then what you do with remarketing is you can actually take that list of cookies or user IDs of folks that have come to your site, and you can push those into a demand-side platform, a programmatic media buying platform, to target those folks as they go to other websites across the internet. And use that as an opportunity to bid on media to put your ad in front of just those folks that have already come to your website. They then get served that ad. It's obviously super relevant to them. And that person then comes back to your site, and now they transact. And that's typically done at a cost per action or return on investment that is way more efficient than just about any other marketing activity out there. So it's a super effective way of driving value. What we've seen with some of our clients is using the capabilities, the deeply integrated capabilities between Google Analytics and the DoubleClick media execution stack, clients are able to get much more benefit out of their remarketing efforts than they have before. And think about that. This is probably your most valuable source of potential customers, right? They've already expressed interest. So anything you can do to be more effective in getting these folks to come back is going to pay outsized return in your marketing activity. And we've seen that with what clients can do. So here's how that works and why it's so beneficial. We've already talked about how analytics can provide all sorts of customized audience-based capabilities where you can now look at not just all the folks that come to your site, but actually look at the specific segments, what products they put in their cart, what level of activity, where did they drop off, and you can now create all sorts of unique targeted segments within your remarketing portfolio and seamlessly push 100% of those user IDs directly into the DoubleClick bid management platform for remarketing efforts. Now, if you use a third-party solution, you're typically going to have data loss. 20 or 30% of these incredibly valuable customers won't match up with a third-party platform. You'll only be able to market to 70% or 80% of that base in your marketing activity. So a lot of times the ability to use all this advanced targeting and audience segmentation capabilities within analytics and the ability to push 100% of that data into DoubleClick Campaign Manager or DoubleClick Bid Manager allows you to be much more effective in your marketing. And the L'Oreal results, I think, really point that out. So they were able to see a 2x increase, double the amount of revenue they got out of this campaign, and a 2,200% return on their ad spend by using analytics to drive more customized audience-based segmentation into DoubleClick Bid Manager. So dramatic results to drive results. And now, Dave, I think you also have another example of a client that's been able to use this integration with a DoubleClick Bid Manager, but in a different way to drive results as well, right?
Yeah, and I think even from 30,000 feet, I can't echo your excitement about this activation phase enough. I remember years ago sitting in Mountain View with some of the product folks on the Google Analytics team at the time, and they said, what's the biggest issue that you'd like to see us solve? And I think unanimously, those of us sitting in that room said, well, the biggest frustration is that I can use this great tool in Google Analytics. I can evaluate all of the different slices of data that I've got. I can identify segments, for example, that are extremely likely to respond to an offer that I have or convert on a particular goal that I have. And once I get that information, I'm done. There's nothing I can do with this information. I have no way to take that audience and reach them. And when Google first started to make these connections with audiences and then exporting audiences first into AdWords for remarketing lists, and now we can start to see them not only just going into DoubleClick, but going into a DMP environment where we can take those specific audiences, as Paul said, with zero data loss, and then activate against them with the right message at the right time to drive the right action. That is truly exciting. And that's one of the things that I think is one of the biggest components of this digital revolution in the marketing space in general. And I'll also just say we've talked a lot about getting data out of the GA360 environment to do more advanced things with it in data modeling environments and things like that. But it's just as important to be able to take data in. And we haven't explicitly said it yet, but data import is one of the most impactful features that we have inside this platform. And the example Paul was referring to is a very large, very well-known financial institution that had a traditional CRM of personally identifiable information that was very sensitive, but also very, very useful. And the trick is that's very difficult to bring into an online environment and start to actually use for data protection reasons, as well as just the logistics of doing it. But working with Cardinal Path, we were able to find a solution that took the non-PII elements of the behaviors, the attributes, the targetable segments that we knew we wanted to reach across digital channels and could reach in the offline space, but we were able to import those as custom dimensions that were then usable within the Google Analytics 360 environment to create a segment, and from that segment create an audience that could then be activated across the DoubleClick platform and in a number of other places as well. So this was really that golden moment where they were able to take traditional segmentation that had been done and actually move it very, very easily into the digital space and activate it for the very first time, start to reach those people that we wanted to reach and get them with the messages that we knew they were likely to respond to and that were useful to those folks as consumers.
Yeah, it's great. It just reiterates it's, again, using analytics data and porting it seamlessly into the bid platform is one aspect, but then there's also the aspect Dave talked about, which is using the analytics platform and being able to push it out, seamlessly add external data and bring that back into the platform to then push to the bid platform. It's both sides of that equation that I think can help marketers generate dramatically better results out of these remarketing efforts. But for the folks that are publishers that generate their revenue from media, we found that analytics can have the same type of benefit for those clients as well through the integration with DoubleClick for publishers, essentially our ad serving platform for publishers that are essentially using their website to generate all sorts of page views, and they monetize that through the media that they serve against those page views. Similar capability, which is the ability to use Analytics 360 to do all sorts of audience-based segmentation of all of their visitors. And we've seen clients use that capability and push those customized audience segments into DoubleClick for publishers so that the publisher ad server can now serve ads against those audience segments, which allows them to sell more customized, higher value media to those users, which helps them drive improved media revenue. And AccuWeather is a great case study of that. Leveraging this capability, they're able to see a 45% increase in the revenue that they generated through these customized packages by integrating Analytics 360 and all the audience segmentation they were doing there with DoubleClick for publishers. So a great example on the publisher side where the Analytics 360 product can help drive more media revenue. With that, I'll hand it to Dave. We kind of touched a little bit on just the three ways we think about data, and I think hand it over to Dave to talk a little bit about, we've touched on this, the integration with CRM and third-party solutions, and also how you need to look at not just the tool, and I obviously feel very strongly about the value and the tool capabilities within Analytics 360 and Analytics 360 Suite, but also the partner you use to make sure you customize the power of this tool to specifically meet the needs of your business. And we're big believers in that. We think it's very important for clients to make sure they have the right tool, but they also have the right partner to help them get the most out of that tool. And Dave's going to touch on that.
Yeah, thanks, Paul. And I think, you've seen a common story here as we've gone through these slides in this webinar that there is a really cool feature and functionality, but that alone isn't providing as much value as the very smart people over at Google and our client organizations that are leveraging these tools to actually make an impact out of them. And specifically, we've talked about both importing data and exporting data separately, but I also wanted to make sure we touched on the fact that these platforms do integrate in a bidirectional way with some of the leading platforms that are out there. So this was an example from a very large client of ours in a very traditional and mature industry. It was almost entirely an offline-based business. It was CRM-based with a large back-end ERP, but really, if you think about it, it was about telephones and paper that was driving this business. And they knew that they needed to move into the digital age or suffer the consequences of being left behind. What we ended up doing here was moving them into this environment and shifting a traditional database-style company into two tools, the Salesforce CRM platform and all the activations that go with that, and the Google Analytics 360 environment. Now, from this, we were able to start to pull not just information about each of these individuals in the Salesforce environment, but we were also able to push Salesforce attributes and behaviors into GA360. But vice versa, we were able to take all of the activity that known users were doing inside of the digital environments and push that information back into the Salesforce records. Now, this helped us to understand if or when new clients were engaging with the different tools and features that they were putting out in their transition and transformation to digital. We were understanding if people were expanding use of those features, or if those features did not merit further development. We were looking for any signs that would show them advancing through the customer funnel, and then we were able to, as we've talked about here, activate against those with campaigns. We were able to look at any of the data and start to look at churn analyses so that we could predict if someone was about to leave the environment, for example. So lots and lots of new functionality that was available to a very traditional business who had been very successful in that offline world as they shifted into the digital space. It was a fairly seamless transition with these tools and these integrations to get that same functionality that they required. And again, that common theme that we've talked about really kind of boils down to a couple of things. And the analogy that I like to use is around building a house. We've heard about the GA360 suite, and we've heard about all the great tools that it can integrate with in today's expanding and crazy marketing technology stack. But at the end of the day, those are hammers. And as you've heard Paul and myself say, it's really important that we learn how to use those hammers to drive true value, right? This is actually a great suite of power tools. But we do need the architect. We need the carpenters. We need the people to use these tools in order to gain the actual value for our businesses. And at Cardinal Path, we've been dealing with data and analytics in the digital marketing space for many, many years. And we've developed a framework that we call the online analytics maturity model. What we look at is technology, number 6 here, is very important. But we also look at 5 other aspects that we've seen organizations become successful with. And those who are successful will have maturity in each of these areas. And we've benchmarked just over 1,500 organizations worldwide. So if you'd like to ever take this, just head over to our website and you can see how you stack up against our database, against your industry, against companies your size, so on and so forth. But you'll see that things like management and having support and governance around your approach to data are extremely important to the success of your programs. And stating your clear objectives and the scope of those objectives, we want to make sure we're not trying to boil the ocean. If you don't have a website today, it's unlikely that you'll be doing advanced attribution by Friday. So we have to understand where we are in order to understand where we can go. Number 4 is probably the one that is most overlooked. A lot of organizations will spend lots of time, money, and resources on tools and technology and realize that they don't have the people who know how to use that to actually drive the value from it. And as Paul said, there is a correct solution for everyone, but we want to really make sure that if you invest time or money or both into these, you are getting the most out of that investment. And then last is having a methodology within your organization around how you get from point A to point B. You may be a Lean Six Sigma organization, you may have traditional waterfall processes, but whatever that is, understanding how you're going to get from where you are now to develop a roadmap and move down that roadmap will be key to making sure that you are not just plugging holes wherever you can or building a big ball of Band-Aids with respect to your digital marketing activities. So really, I'll just kind of illustrate that with one organization that we've been working with for a number of years. And when we first benchmarked them, what we saw was the diagram on the left. They had bought an enormous amount of tools and technology, and they had spent the entire budget. They had gotten minimal management approval just for the budget expense. They really didn't have any clear objectives of what they wanted to do with it, but probably most importantly, they had no people who were left to be able to use this. And the analogy we always use there is they had bought a Ferrari, but no one in the organization even had a driver's license. So they had spent their time playing with the radio and beeping on the horn when really what they needed to be doing was taking advantage of these machines that they had built that were built for bigger and better things. They just weren't ready for it. So what we were able to do is kind of bring them back into balance. And it was at lower levels of maturity. That's the first thing I'll note here. But they were able to get much, much more value out of their investments by being balanced, having a roadmap that they could go against with fixed scope, fixed objectives, having the people to do this, and then getting the technology required to meet the objectives of that roadmap. And ultimately, what this allows you to do is grow. And what we want, and whether we're Google or Cardinal Path or anyone in your organization, we want to grow. And the two axes of growth that we see here are, number one, on the vertical side, we want to move organizations through a series of better and better maturity against the 6 facets that we just looked at. The other thing that most notably we want to do is give a organization impact to their business, and measurable impact to their business. And the way we see organizations do this is kind of through 3 different tiers. The first being what we call the technology tier. The technical tier is really about building that foundation. It is figuring out which of those tools you need and then making sure that you implement them and you integrate them with all of the other components of your marketing technology stack in the back end of your business so that you can absolutely get the most value that you possibly can from it. But I will say that you can have the best IT implementation of every tool inside the stack integrated left and right. But if you're not actually taking advantage of it and using it, what you've really done was just store data. Now, it's important that you trust that data and that was implemented correctly so that when you use that data, you're trusting the decisions you're making with it. But when we move into this idea of the business layer, this is really about the first stage of activation. And you can start to see at the bottom left of this orange box, a place where a lot of organizations start is to start to visualize their data rather than use static reports that come out once a month, and by the time they get on your desk, they're not what you wanted to see, and they're outdated anyway. We can move into data visualization platforms, and things like Data Studio in the 360 suite will certainly help us do that so that we can look at multi-source data, and we can connect not just with a Google Analytics source, but also with search marketing sources, display marketing, and programmatic sources. We can look at back-end inventory systems all in one place, and we can explore the data. When we click on something, things happen, and if we see anomalies that we want to investigate, we can dive in and understand what's happening there. And then that eventually gets driven by a formal structure of a measurement framework, which includes not just the KPIs that are driving each of your business objectives, but a framework for building those out specific to customer segments and specific to the stage of this new customer journey they may be into. And ultimately, this wraps itself around things like data governance and centers of excellence and a data strategy to drive your business forward. Last, we have all the things that you've probably been doing in your organization for many decades before the internet, and you will continue to do it after. Things like lifetime value modeling and churn modeling are not new. But the ways that we can do this and the amounts of data we have to use to inform these models are incredible, right? Things like media mix modeling. Traditional media mix modeling can now be broken into ecosystems of owned, earned, and paid social channels and search channels and all the different things that we're doing so that we're no longer just looking at a global digital bucket here against traditional media sources and things. And of course, Paul has mentioned a few times the attribution side of things, which is a relatively new thing in the digital space. This is not an econometric approach, but a cookie, a user ID, a device ID based approach to understanding all the different touch points that we can track for an individual as they go through this customer journey. And then we can attribute value to each of those touch points, which helps us to understand not only how much we should be investing in these digital channels, but how we should invest it. So all these things become extremely important. And ultimately what we're trying to do is get someone, whether you're a technology vendor, a services vendor, or an organization, we want to get an organization to move holistically from the bottom left up into the upper right. And there are dependencies here. And one of the things is that technology is required for us to do these sorts of things. So when we talk about all the capabilities inside of the GA360 suite, we can tackle a lot of these things right out of the gates. The other thing we can do, you've heard Paul say, we can extend. So when we get into a Google Analytics 360, there are base attribution features there. We can do custom attribution models, and in the paid version, we have data-driven attribution models. But if we need to go beyond that, there is an Attribution 360 product within the suite that integrates and allows, as Paul said, all that Google Analytics data to help us do more advanced attribution with all the different sources that we have that are out there. So really, that technology becomes the foundation. And as we swing these really, really cool hammers, we want to make sure that we do have the architects and the carpenters required to guide what we're doing and the house that we're building on top of it. And I think we'll just kind of close with a great case study. First Dibs is an organization that we've been working with for a number of years now, and these guys are an example of a company that was really making that transition into digital. And they were doing it on their own, and we came along and we showed how we could use the 360 suite and use things like BigQuery to integrate with the back end of all the other wonderful things that these guys were doing. And at this point, they've taken advantage of a number of the 360 platform products here in order to really transform the business. And this is a great example of an organization that used everything from user IDs and mobile app tracking, and they were pioneering some of these things in beta to understand that journey across how their customers were looking at inventories, making purchasing decisions, how all of this was tied together with all these different features that we've been talking about throughout this webinar. And at the end of the day, you know, what we want to see are that business impact, that measured results. And at the end of the implementations here and starting to take advantage of this platform as part of their marketing technology stack, and with the leadership inside the organization and the great folks are building the team around there to use all of this, that marriage of the technology and the smart people to use the technology has really resulted in some big outputs, right? So generally speaking, 24% increase in conversions. Things like transaction lifts going up by 47%, return on ad spend being significantly altered for the better in the use of these tools and technologies. And then things like just campaign level click-through rates going up because they now have the visibility to understand who they should be targeting with what messages at what time that are more relevant. And these are some big measurable impacts that we can get, driven largely by the tools and technology and the smart people that are using them across that Google Analytics 360 suite. So to kind of wrap things up and make sure we leave some time for questions here, really what we're looking for, and I know Paul will second this as well, is the big takeaway from here is that, you know, analytics is important. It's one of the things that whether you look at eMarketer studies or you look at your own organization, it is top of mind right now. And it is a marriage between a best-of-breed tool and platform solution and the smart people to use it, the carpenters to swing that hammer in our analogy. And ultimately, I think, you know, all of us are coming together around this commitment to become more data-driven within our organizations. And although all of us agree that that's the goal, it's been a difficult path here in a nascent industry as we've had so much change in the marketing technology space, and platforms like Google Analytics 360 coupled with the right people to help us get the most out of it are really a great way forward. And Paul, I'm not sure if you had anything to add there.
Yeah, I think I just want to make sure we leave time for questions. I know we're running out. I can't agree more on just the hammer and the carpenter analogy, which is, you know, we have great tools within GA360 suite, a lot of strategic advantages that I think will help marketers be can help marketers become much more effective and efficient, but you need to have the right guide that can help ensure that you customize the implementation to specifically meet the needs of your business. And when you get to that enterprise level where you need a tool, an enterprise level tool, you want to make sure you have the right experts at your side that can help with that implementation. So we're big proponents and fans of leveraging that kind of partner and using someone like Cardinal Path. It's one of our best partners out there to ensure that you get the most out of the tool.
Great. Okay, so Karen, we'll pass it back to you, and maybe we can take some time for some questions.
Thanks, David and Paul. We did have quite a few questions, and just have a few minutes left. So if we don't get to them all, we've been told that our friends at Cardinal Path will be publishing a Q&A blog post with all the answers on its website. So audience, hang in there, and don't worry, we are going to be able to answer everyone's questions, even if we don't have a few minutes now. So let's start with this for. I'm sorry, it was getting a little confused there with all of them. All right, so for Paul, this one's for you. How many people and/or what kind of expertise do we need to operate Google Analytics 360? Maybe you want to clarify that for some of our attendees.
Sure. I think so. I think there's a difference here. There's what kind of expertise do you need to implement versus what kind of expertise do you need from an ongoing standpoint. And I think, as we said, I think while the tool and the implementation is something that if you have the kind of capabilities within your organization, the web analytics capabilities and some of the technical resources in your IT team, you can look to do this yourself. And we do have clients that do that. But we find that many times it makes sense to work with a partner like Cardinal Path to ensure and to more deeply dig into ensuring that you can implement the right way. I think on an ongoing basis, it's really a perspective of what type of in-house staff do you have. So, the tools themselves are meant to be, user-friendly and with a friendly user interface. But there is a training aspect to make sure that you can get up to speed in using those tools. And a lot of times we find clients just aren't able to hire the internal staff to fully take advantage of these tools. And that's also a place where partners like Cardinal Path can come in. They can essentially provide ongoing staffing support to really be an extension of your team. That said, the tools are meant to be, something that marketers can use once it's implemented to do their job. So, any marketer that's got some level of understanding of digital media and the digital ecosystem should be able to get trained to be able to use these tools. And using things like Data Studio, those are meant to be really easy tools to, in a sense, democratize insight, make it easier for more folks to be able to use the tool and use the insights that come out of the platform.
Great. Let's see if we can squeeze one or two more in. Sort of on top of that, how disruptive is it to switch from standard to 360? For example, will I lose my old data and do I have to redeploy? Dave, maybe you want to take a first shot at that?
Sure. Yeah. As the first and one of the largest resellers of the GA Premium, now GA 360 suite, I can tell you it's actually magically simple. As I mentioned earlier, it's really kind of a switch that's pulled in the back end. This can be done within 24 hours. Cycles usually start on the first of a month, but they can be retroactive. And really, switching that switch automatically starts the data collection through that pipeline that allows the higher thresholds of collection. The sampling will magically go away for most folks. All those integrations become available to you immediately. You start to see the new features that are added into the account immediately. And when you start taking advantage of those new and different features, you don't have to change any of the code base. It's the same exact implementation that you have. You may choose to implement additional features or take advantage of additional limits on things like custom dimensions and things of that nature, but you don't have to. So really, it's an exceptionally seamless process. If you're already using the standard product, really pushing that button is all it needs to be done for you to start taking advantage of some of those features and get access to all the rest right away.
The only thing I'll add is what we've seen. I'm sorry, just one quick thing to add to that is,
go ahead, Paul.
If you've implemented Google Analytics on your own, I mean, sometimes clients will use a partner like Cardinal Path to implement the free version. We always suggest that in moving from free to the enterprise version of analytics, a lot of times it makes sense to do an audit of your original implementation just to make sure that it's set up comprehensively and correctly. It's just a good opportunity to make sure that it's collecting all the data you need. Now, if that's the case, and everything Dave said is absolutely true, you can literally flip a switch and all the other things work. It's just sometimes it makes sense to do that little bit of extra effort if you haven't used a partner, or just to make sure you've implemented the original Google Analytics tags comprehensively and correctly.
All right,
yeah,
Paul,
that's a great point.
Go ahead, David. I'm sorry.
I was just going to say, I should absolutely reiterate that the idea that you can flip it on is certainly true, but you will not be able to take advantage of everything unless you are actively doing that. So it's a great time for an audit or to enhance the implementation that you've got with all those new features that you now have access to.
So Paul, let's sort of end on this note. The question is, how do you see Google Analytics 360 evolving in the future, and any other capabilities that the platform may be supporting?
Yeah, it's a great question. So I think we've really laid out, we think, the comprehensiveness of the platform and what our vision is. A lot of what we're doing in the near term, in the next couple of years, is tightening up the integration against all those products and looking to also tighten the integration and deepen the capabilities within the BigQuery integration. So I think you'll see us be more and more effective at just increasing the efficiency of using all these tools, the integration with the DoubleClick suite, all aspects of the GA360 suite, just the seamless nature of all that. Obviously, there's other great things going on, but those are things I can't. Obviously, those are all things that are confidential. We'll announce those things in good time.
All right, thank you. And unfortunately, everyone, that is all the time we have today. I do want to thank Paul and David for a very informative and timely presentation. And thank you again to our audience for your great questions. As I mentioned previously, look out for an email from Cardinal Path with a recording of the webinar and some other related resources. And they'll be publishing a Q&A blog post later today with the answers to the questions we did not get to on our webinar. That's all for our broadcast today. We look forward to seeing you next time right here at Digital Marketing Depot.